Hello and welcome to Tuesdays with Mike. Today's a very special edition. We don't have a podcast, we've got a Squadcast. And I want to introduce the group of individuals, friends that I've got on the Squadcast right now. We've got Marc Middleton from Growing Bolder. We've got Barbara Hannah Grufferman for Aging Well with Aging Well. We've got Scott Fulton with Function, most recently the book author Function. And we've got Colin Milner from the IcaaCc, the International Council on Active Aging. Welcome, friends, to the Squadcast.
Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you for
having us,
having
Mike.
us.
Very much looking forward to this. Here are the ground rules. I'm going to rotate the questions. Everyone gets a chance to answer one seminal question first. After we've all had a chance to answer a question, you'll all be given an opportunity to chime in and do one of the 5 C's. So you can compliment, comment, contradict, clarify, or contrast, whatever you choose to do at the end of that first round. And then we've got a few other exciting things. We're all about aging, healthy aging, and all the terms that go with that today. And I want to encourage all of you to challenge anything that I say, but then more liberally and politely challenge the rest of the guests that we brought on. So be as aggressive as you want with whatever I have to say. All right, here we go. Right to question one. We're going to keep the questions very hard hitting and the answers very practical. Ladies first. Okay, Barbara, you've made it very clear in your podcast this year that you're headed toward completing your 70th year, which means that you are entering your 8th decade. And you've made a very beautiful emphasis on this, and I really appreciate what you're doing. And I have to ask, what do you think is critical for a person to do in their 8th decade of life that's different than their 3rd decade of life? Barbara?
Well, thank you, Mike, so much for that introduction. And by the way, I just want to point out, I guess this is one of the C's. To clarify, the name of my podcast is Age Better.
Age
Just want to
better, thank
clarify.
you. There we go.
Okay.
We'll take the correction. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So, the difference between 30 and I'm in my 60s. And hey, don't talk about my age like that on national TV, but I'm just kidding because if anyone knows me, it knows my last book was called Love Your Age, and I do love my age. I'm very proud of it. So, yes, you're right. At the end of this year, I am going to turn 70, the big 70. So I'm eager to confront that, but I'm getting myself ready too. And that's really the point. When I was in my 30s, I mean, like all of us, what was I doing? I was building my career. I was starting a family, got married, starting a family, focusing on community and nesting and everything else, but really focused on career. So put all that together, there was no time left for me to focus on health and wellness. In fact, I was one of those. I was one of those people who was like, sleep? Oh no, gosh, no, that's for sissies. I was one of those, 4 hours sleep. I can do it. I used to pull all-nighters because that's who I was at that time. So health and wellness just didn't happen until I hit 50. When I hit 50, a lot of things happened to me, went through menopause, broken arm, found out about bone health, blah, blah, blah. And that's when I wrote my first book, but also embarked on this kind of ongoing personal health and wellness, healthy aging journey that I invite everyone to join me on all the time. So, things are different now. Back then, it was like, yeah, okay, I guess I have a health plan, sort of, kind of. Now I really have a plan. And I view the 60s as the decade of decision. I'm all about it's never too late to start. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that that's almost my mantra. Never too late to start, whether it's strength training or getting a good night's sleep or eating better, fill in the blank. But it is better if you start a little earlier. However, I truly believe the 60s are okay, everyone. You know what you need to do. If you really want to age better, and if you really want to be mobile, independent for as long as possible, and not frail, when you turn 70, as I'm about to do, and beyond, 80s, 90s, if we're so lucky. You need to have a plan and you need to start getting serious about it. And so, truly, my favorite mantra is, in addition to it's never too late, is that we can't control getting older. We can't, but we can control how we do it.
Wow. The decade of decision. You dropped a
Mhm.
dime right there. That is excellent. And really, you're talking about the mantras, you're talking about the life emphases that have changed over those decades as well. Never too late and no regrets. But what we're clearly hearing from you is that you've got a health plan right now, and you're thinking you started this at your 50s. We may come back to this later to give you some opportunity to offer some perspective of looking back. Would you have suggested a different life plan, health plan for yourself in your 30s? We might come back to that as well.
One
Barbara,
thing I
thank
want
you
to
so much.
add to
Yeah, go
this
ahead,
is that
please.
a very important aspect of all of this, no matter what age you are, what decade you're in, is that you have to, another little bit of a mantra for me is you have to reassess and tweak. This whole thing
Mm,
about start where you are. Let's just say I'm going to start strength training. You don't start strength training as if you're 20. You have to strength train starting where you are at the moment, what your body is capable of doing, and improve from there. But it's all about reassessing and tweaking along the way. For example, I mentioned I really became more aware of all of this when I turned 50 and wrote my first book. And so I put myself on this path with a lot of experts chiming in and helping me along the way as they continue to do. But, I'm not on the same plan now that I'm 69 as I was when I was 55. It's different now. I
yeah.
continuously reassess and tweak. And that's important for everyone to do in all aspects of life.
Barbara, I'm so pleased today to introduce you to Scott Fulton because he's the reassess and tweak king right now with his latest book, Function. So we're going to hear more from him in just a few moments. That's a great add on. Barbara, thank you so much for contributing that bonus addendum as well. We appreciate that. Mark, we're headed up to you now. You've been leading Growing Bolder with the book that you wrote, same title, and the media efforts, multimedia, on several platforms for decades now. And I want to find out from you, what have you learned from some of the greatest stories of successful aging, people you've interviewed, people that you've had contact with, that you are applying or would encourage people to apply themselves?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Mike. And isn't it like you to figure out a way to gamify, an important topic like this, which does make it more fun, and that's an important part of growing older, being able to gamify what we do. If I can just jump on what the incredible Barbara Hannah Grufferman just said, totally agree with. It's never too late. But I think people need to understand that it's never too soon to begin. I talk to a lot of groups of older adults, and I always say the same thing. It is never too late. But in my mind, honestly, candidly, when I'm talking to some of them, when I'm listening to some of them, I'm thinking, well, maybe except for you and you and you and you and you, because mindset is the thing that determines our success as we age. And the sooner we get that, the better. We need to start. We need to, all of us, everybody that's dealing in this space needs to make sure that our message is heard and integrated into the lives of 30 and 40 and 50 and 60-year-olds, because we all see this freight train of frailty that is coming at us full speed, that has the ability to literally not just destroy lives and families, but bankrupt our entire country. And the only way, I believe, the only way we get ahead of that is to modify the lifestyle of people in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. But to your question, we made the decision when we started, we're all storytellers. And, we just wanted to tell stories of ordinary older adults, not genetic super freaks, but ordinary older adults that were living with passion and purpose, that were enjoying their lives, that somehow had figured out a way to live with joy no matter what their challenges are. And so that's what we started doing. And these stories are fun, but do they have impact? And what we realized early on, it's not really what they're doing, it's what they had to overcome to do what they're doing. That's the germ of the story. That's the impact, because that's something everybody can relate to. So I can't tell you any one particular story, Mike. We have done thousands of stories, every one of them different and every one of them the same. And when you do those many stories, and when you learn to ask people, you build a story not around what they're doing, you build a story around what they've had to overcome. And we all know when you get to be a certain age, there's none of us that is able to escape the challenges of aging. It's who we are.
Yeah.
It's in our biology. But it's how we react to that. It's how we prepare for those. And those are the lessons. And, this is what I have learned. And I greatly respect what guys like you and Scott do, the people that are academics. But I truly believe that the work that you do, the great work that you do, is lost on the normal, ordinary person without people who can translate that into a way that makes sense to them. And
Right.
this is what I have learned. The only way that I have ever seen that we can change the way people think about aging is through the examples of other people that they can relate to. And I quote both of you guys all the time. I share statistics. I quote Colin and Barbara Hannah Grufferman all the time. And it does kind of set the stage, but until they see it, until they see someone like them doing something that they never thought about doing or never thought they could do, then it's game on. So those are the stories that we tell, and we've told so many of them that there are many common denominators that you quickly learn, keys to active, healthy, happy longevity. And I hate to use the word longevity anymore, because it's really just all about health span. It's not about how long we live. It's about how well we live. So I don't know whether I answered your question, but I enjoyed trying.
You exceeded
And
my
we enjoyed listening.
expectations. Yes, thank you, Barbara.
I
Hey,
learned absolutely
I just wanted
nothing
to
from
chime
that,
in.
Mark.
Oh,
Come
go
on.
ahead. I just want to chime into what Mark was saying. I mean, he's so right. I mean, I've been following Mark for years now. In fact, I've even participated in some of his programs and written a few things for his magazine. But hearing the stories of these people is so motivating. It makes you feel like, oh, well, if that person can do this, and maybe it isn't too late for me. Maybe I can do that. So, bravo, Mark, for continuing the good work that you do. And I also want to just say, I agree with you completely that part of our mission together, collectively, for all that we do in talking to people is to get the message out to a younger audience so that they do take the steps. Like I was talking about me in my 30s. I didn't do anything. In fact, going way back when I was back in school as a kid, my mantra then was avoid all eye contact when they were choosing people for the volleyball team. Like I was one of those people, did nothing. So this is important, and I applaud you for that too, and thank you for bringing it up.
You bet.
It's excellent. We're going to get a chance to come and circle back, but Mark, the freight train of frailty, I heard from you. I believe I heard that you can decelerate this freight train with passion, with purpose, with translation, and with stories. And I think I heard you deflect to Scott and I as scientists and academicians, but I want to encourage you to also realize you're a data collector through the stories that you are curating. And you are, when you said one of those final sentences, the commonalities that we see across the stories, the overcoming, the resilience that people see, you are collecting data, and you are equally as much a translator and academician as well with your efforts. Mark, thank you for your answer.
You bet. Yeah, I do. I consider myself a translator. That's really, I'm not smart enough to do the work that you guys do. But I am able to translate it into a way that makes it compelling to people who aren't going to read, the sometimes very heavy stuff that you guys write.
Yes, sometimes too
Agree
heavy.
with that. I mean, that's why,
I
Mike
agree.
has been on my show also to translate, to hopefully I was able to translate a lot of what you are writing about and researching in your wonderful book.
Yeah. You brought some things out that I didn't expect too. Thank you for that interview, Barbara. Uh, Colin, we're headed down to you. You've become really internationally recognized and invited to speak across the world on topics that surround successful aging. And I have to ask you, what do you envision for the next 5 years, or if you prefer, 10 years, will be novel breakthroughs influencing how care is provided and life is enriched through the communities that you touch?
I guess the first thing is defining what care is. From my perspective, I care about myself. I care about people around me. I care for people. And if I care for them, I want to help them live a better quality of life. I want to help myself live a better quality of life. So if I look at it from that angle, the question becomes is how do I do that? How do I achieve that? And I think that we are at a pivotal point in the industry where, as you mentioned, many of the senior living communities that we work with, where we're really beginning to see the normalization of healthy aging instead of it being exceptional, as Mark alluded to earlier, where it's all about the super senior. It is becoming normal to be healthy as you get older. My parents' generation, it was not. Matter of fact, I remember looking at my dad's hands when he was 40, thinking, man, those hands look old. And then I looked at my hands when I was 50 and I went, man, those hands look young, kind of. So I think our view of aging is certainly changing, but I think to really move to the next level, we need to normalize the focus on healthy aging. And one of the ways of doing that is not just the integration of evidence, but the integration of evidence with lived experience. So, as an example, evidence itself defines what works. It's lived experiences that define what matters. So when you put those two together, you're really kind of hitting a home run. And sometimes we just focus on the evidence and not what matters to the individuals. That's why I think that senior living communities of the future, one, won't be called senior living communities. Two is that hopefully they will become centers of discovery where we can discover what we like, what we're passionate about, who we want to be around, our identity, our capabilities, our delayed dreams, and then start implementing those. I mean, for me, it all starts with the identity. And, Mark, with the stories that he has covered over the years, knows that because it's all about who that person sees himself as. And, we need to be able to help people to assess, as an example, when my dad left his job, he lost his identity for years. And he couldn't figure out who he was because he was so ingrained around being a insurance salesperson 24/7. And then he was no longer an insurance salesperson. So who is he? So helping people to assess who they see themselves as, but who they actually want to be, and not just medicalize that process, but inspirationalize it. Help people look at the aspirations that they have and how they're going to achieve that. And to build programming around that, I think is going to be a key element as we move to the future. And all of this is actually part of why we're now seeing in senior living communities wellness moving from a department to the organizational framework, to a strategic priority, to becoming culture. Now, are all communities like that? No. But we know that based on our research, 71% of them expect to be a wellness-based community with care by 2030 versus a care-based community with wellness. All of what we just talked about is part of what is shifting the model. And then of course, Mike, you have some of your real basic stuff that, there's such a focus on precision health, whether it is through DNA, genetics, whether it's just basically better understanding the person in front of you, whether it's blood tests, whatever it may be. But our knowledge has changed so much over the last 30 years, and I say this in almost all the interviews I do now, because I think it's a really important point to make. And that is, the number one thing that has changed over the last 20, 30, 40 years is one thing, and that is knowledge. Our knowledge is what's driving new products. Our knowledge is what's driving new ways of thinking. Our knowledge is what's driving new marketing approaches. So our knowledge of what we are capable of is very different than what it was in the past. So I think, kind of coming full circle, as we talked about data helps to inform knowledge, but it's not until it's implemented as to whether that data works or not. But once it's implemented, it shows a path where we can actually have new lived experiences, and that's what the future holds.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Barbara, I'm going to give you a chance. Do you want to reframe the decade and call it maybe the decade of discovery now, according to Colin's comments?
I'm going to stick to, I hear you. I'm going to stick with the decade of decision, because discovery can also be a part of that for sure. It's like a subset of, you can decide, well, I'm just going to close up and this is how it is once you get old. Or you can be very open-minded, as you were just discussing. This was brilliant. And I was really excited. I was feeling excited and very encouraged about everything that you were just saying. And I really hope that this all comes to pass. And I think that if we all work together, that this is a great possibility. I do believe, discovery and motivation and mindset, these are super, super important. We've all touched on this already, but I do still believe, and of course I know you do too, that the physical is key. It's key, because I just don't think you can enjoy discovering if you're frail and, falling and breaking your hip and so on and so forth. And so, all of that has to really work together, the physical and the emotional, if you will. It's really I think a very exciting time to be in this space, this universe of aging. And again, I also don't want to, Mark, I'm with you. I don't want to use longevity ever again. I immediately think of Dr. Peter Attia now, but okay, we'll move on from that. And so it's a very exciting time, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
And if I could add to that, Barbara, you're absolutely correct. Our approach has been that we look at the whole person. And, the physical is kind of the foundation, along with purpose. And if you're not able to get up out of a chair, you have a problem.
Yeah.
If you are not able to do the things you want to do because you aren't capable of them, that diminishes quality of life. It doesn't reduce the potential of someone to still live a meaneful life. It just simply means that they are unable to do some of the things that we take for granted today.
Yeah. But, and the reverse is also true. If people are maybe heading in a direction physically that's not in a positive way, and the desire is there to discover, then that might right there be motivation, like, hey, I still have some time, especially if they're in the decade of decision.
Well, we talk a lot.
Because we know studies have shown, and again, very encouraging, that even people in their 70s have shown remarkable improvement in their strength and muscle mass buildup by doing strength training. So it really is never too late. So maybe it starts there. Maybe it starts with the desire to discover, and your physical has to follow that. So that's also a good motivator.
Yeah, I think you're right there, because, at the end of the day, I have to have some reason for doing things.
Yes.
So what is that reason, and how do I discover that reason, and where does that take me? And that's really what Scott focuses a lot on, is the various functional levels, and how someone, no matter where you are on the functional continuum, can actually claw their way back to better health.
Yeah, it is possible. So, the whole thing is just so fascinating. And I guess it comes down to the individual. We're really in that direction now of individualized, personalized medicine. And this is also true. Like, I don't know, like I might be motivated by something, you might be motivated by something else entirely different. It just like, it is very individualized. But I think, it's very exciting and encouraging.
Agreed.
Beautifully stated, Barbara. Wonderfully encapsulated, Colin. Thank you both for those comments. Scott, I don't think this group could have set you up better for success than what they already have. Lived experiences. You haven't heard the word blind spots, but you've heard it in many other fashions so far throughout this. Opportunities, what's going to motivate people. So, Scott, let's turn and point the question toward you. In your latest book, Function, you give people a take-home test, if you will, or in the world of medicine, a home test kit, so they can truly evaluate themselves and identify areas that are opportunity. And as I've mentioned, you refer to those as blind spots. And again, it gives people hope to be able to actualize, as our colleagues have referred to so far. And your book is based on data, as I read it, and attempting to curate an essential collection of tests, a truly essential collection, a battery of tests. And you state that a function portfolio is the most reliable data that we have for predicting health span. Yet functional assessments are almost exclusively reserved for healthcare and for the injured and those at risk of losing their independence. So I want to actually find out your thoughts on why it's been overlooked and if there's a place for functional performance in a healthy population.
Well, thanks, Mike, for the question, and thanks for allowing me to go last, because absolutely those are 4 great setups. So thank you to the panel. And I think, if I look at what Marc's been doing around his storytelling, much the same in terms of we started out in the longevity space and moved much more into the health span focus lately. And that was really, for me, part of the drive for this was, let's put some meaning to health span that's relatable for people. Because I'll tell you, the medical definition of health span is the absence of disease. None of us view health span that way, and no one else does. So my background is really a research engineer, not a research scientist, a research engineer, because I want to look at the data, large blocks of data, and how do they apply to you and I. So it's that bridge between science and curation has always excited me, the whole aspect of aging. And so when I think about function, I'm really this bridge between physical and cognitive function. And you, Mike, you and I have had many conversations around this, and I think it's not something that's nearly as well understood as it will be going forward. We're seeing function really come to the center of a lot of conversations. We've been lulled into believing that a healthy lifestyle of diet and exercise results in an extended health span. Sounds like a good story. If the data were true around that, older adults would be dominated by elite athletes. Mm-hmm. We all know super performers in their 90s, but the vast majority of older adults aren't super athletes growing up. What they did was avoid their functional weak spot or their blind spot, the weak link in the chain. They avoided terminal disease, but mainly from a functional standpoint, they didn't have a weak link. They didn't know it. Maybe it's just luck, but they did a lot of good things, made good choices along the way. If we think about function as the data and why did we miss it? It's some of the most robust longitudinal data we have in all of medicine is in functional assessment. Yet, as you mentioned, it's treated as a niche clinical tool for the injured and the frail. That's what medicine's for. It's a reactive process, not a proactive process. siloed across 30 subspecialties, all with their own focus, who don't have necessary reason to talk to another, and they don't have reason to focus on the healthy normative population. Like, that's the reference point. That's the people you and I care about. Let's get healthy or be healthy or maintain health going through our aging experience. So we've heard things like metrics like grip strength and VO2. I think that's become more popular, which is good, but they only represent a very small slice of human function, right? I broke it down into 5 domains of function. Most people can handle 5. That really spans this physical and cognitive domains of function, and you need all 5, right? So where are you on all 5? Most people haven't got a clue because we haven't provided them any tools. Yet we know from all the functional testing, we can plot that through pretty much through adult, depending on which domain we're talking about or which activity. Walking, we can follow through from the first steps you make at age 1 through to your last steps when your activities of daily living are at threat, right? They exist across, well, I put 44 into the book. There's hundreds of functional tests where we have that kind of data. So it's really trying to understand, how do we take some of the information that's essentially been sitting there and no one's looked at it in the way that, I think I did, just because I ask a lot of questions. I'm interested in big data. And so really it was taking that forward and saying, what can we do with this and apply it to the normal, healthy population and put it in their hands? You don't have to rely on your doctor. You don't have to go order a $500 genetics test and send blood samples. Also, I saw an ad on the internet recently, someone advertising they had the tools to measure. They could measure your health span. And my reaction was, we all have the tools to measure our health span. If you have a phone, you can record time, GPS location, a tape measure. You've got essentially almost everything. If you want to spend a whole $20 and get a grip dynamometer, you can have everything you need to measure all 5 domains, including cognitive tests around where your health span is tracking, because we measure it by percentile. Are you median? You don't want to be median if you're thinking about a long health span. You want to be probably 75th percentile. That's easy to figure out once you have a bit of information. So all of this for me was to say, wow, how did all this data get pulled together and no one thought to bring it to the public? It's such a powerful, the reaction to all of this has been just wow from people. It's like, it's so obvious. How did we miss it?
Yeah. And it took that mindset and perspective from an engineer to be able to see that. Scott, thanks for bringing that to the world and to our attention. And thank you for your answer to this, bringing so much clarity. I want to celebrate Barbara's youth, where she turned her eyes away from those choosing for volleyball, because you told us in the introductory comments, it's not the super athletes that are going to outlive all of us. And so there you go, Barbara. We're going to look forward to talking to you when you're entering your 10th decade as well. Folks, we're ready to summarize round 1. What comments and clarifications, questions that you have about what you've heard so far? Who wants to point back or compliment or clap back on anything you've heard?
I have a question for Scott. It was really interesting, and I have not yet read your book, and I would like to read your book. What do you propose in your book that we do with the information that we get as a result of going through all of these assessments? What do we do? In other words, my question is always about testing or assessments. Is like, shouldn't you? All right, what are you waiting to see what your result is? Why don't you just start doing what you're supposed to be doing? I mean, that's kind of like, okay, you're waiting to see what it is, and then you're going to start doing the right thing. Come on, everybody. But please, if you could.
Yep, that's a great question. And that's really how the book is designed, is to frame it around, number 1 is, where are you? Most people don't know where they are, right? So doing more of what? You want to be doing more of the thing where you have the most opportunity to gain, which is going to be in your weak link. So
And
do you
that's
know
your
what your
blind
weak link
spots
is?
that you were talking about. These are
Pardon
the
me?
blind spot. These are the blind spots
Right.
that you were talking about. Mhm.
Right. So I'll give you an example. It's one easily relatable to people. We've all heard about the number of steps you should take.
Mm-hmm.
Should I be taking more steps in a day? That's relatively new. What's far more reliable is what's your walking speed.
Mm-hmm.
Change your walking speed by just 4 inches per second, 0.1 meters per second, relatively small, equates to a health span difference of 10 years. So if you found that you're out walking already, but you weren't really bringing the intention to it that you thought you could, and that's the reaction when people that measure it, and it's like, I didn't realize, I thought I was doing well. And so my follow-up question is, so what did you do? I started walking faster. Right? They just didn't realize. And so the answers become automatic once you have the information in front of you to say, these are the areas where I can do better. You don't need anyone to tell you what to do. It's so obvious once you have the information in front of you. That's the link. We've been telling people the whole exercise story, and we keep trying to repackage the message. What I've done is repackage the data to say, and then you can now deliver a message that people can actually act on.
Yeah.
And
But
you
I
know
think
what's so interesting about this is that, as I said before, about we're heading in the direction of personalized medicine and personalized wellness and health. And this sounds exactly that. Like, my walking speed, after doing your assessment from the book, my walking speed could be X, somebody else could be Y. And, we have to then focus on that, whereas we might be stronger than the other person in another area, like getting up from a chair or so. I get it. That's really fascinating.
It's precision
Very
medicine that
personalized.
you apply yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Mike, let me ask you this, because this is where I have a disconnect. I still don't think that we're connecting the dots enough for the normal person, because muscle strength, you could tell somebody, and I don't know what the statistics are, people with more lean muscle mass have a 38% reduced risk of mortality over the next 15-year period. That doesn't register at all to the normal adult, I don't think. Muscle strength, grip strength is a proxy for improved balance, for a lack of inflammation, for the ability to engage in other things that are going to improve your cardiorespiratory. I just think that we got to explain to people, why these things are important. And again, I apologize. I've not read your book. I'm certain that you do. But I think that in general, that's the way that we have to talk to people. I learned, as I said, from you guys all the time. Two more things, and then I'll shut up for a second. To take Barbara's word, my mantra lately, I got two of them. One is mindset, the importance of mindset. I think mindset is the bottom line. Say no more. You cannot get people to engage in lifestyle modification if you don't change their mindset. I used to say belief system, and people say, no, that sounds too religious. Let's get off of that. Barbara called it desire. But people are not going to exercise if they don't understand that they can, and that it will impact them. And you call it belief system because this is what Mike has done for me, among many other things. The stuff that he's proven about the power of belief. It's not just doing something; it's believing that in doing it, you're going to get the results that we all know you can get. So I think where the game has to be played with most older adults is right between the ears. And then the other thing, just to jump on what Colin said, Colin, folks, if you don't know, Colin is the man. I don't think any one of us on this group would ever have entertained living in a senior living community pre-pandemic, or certainly not after the pandemic. With Colin's leadership, what is happening in senior living communities these days is absolutely mind-blowing. My other mantra is community is immunity. And people love to hear it, and they love to repeat it because it is true. If you surround yourself with the right kind of people and the right kind of activity, you will dramatically reduce your incidence of anxiety and depression and almost every age-related disease that there is. And so what these senior living communities are doing, and the speed with which they're remaking themselves, many of them with entirely new leadership, people that are coming out of the hospitality industry and the fitness industry and the healthcare industry, they are turning these senior living communities into launch pads for what's next, which is the program that Barbara was on that we had. So anyways, I think that community is important, but it also can be devastating, because I think we've all learned that belief systems, attitudes about healthcare, attitudes about how we live spread like wildfire, negative and positive throughout social networks. If you are in the wrong group of people, if you are surrounded with old people that don't want to lean into life, you're in trouble.
Right.
So you've got to find the right community.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on something you said, Mark. I mean, you said so many amazing things. So yay to everything you just said. I agree. But also, it's the knowledge thing. It's like really getting these concepts, like you mentioned, VO2 max. I mean, only runners knew about that a few years ago. Like, I'm a runner, a marathoner. I know about my VO2 max, but do normal people? No, they don't, but they have to, or at least they really should. And they're starting to. And that's a reason why I have a column in AARP, the magazine, called Fix Your Body. And each issue, I take a specific thing so that people can understand it, so that they know about it. And in fact, the next issue is all about the VO2 max, because everyday people should know about their VO2 max, why it's important, and what they can do to improve it, because it is improvable. So I couldn't agree more with you. And that's also why I get such joy from doing a weekly podcast, because I bring people like Mike on the show. And I hope to bring on Scott and Colin too in the future to talk about this, so that my audience, who are regular people, not the medical community, will understand these very important ideas. Thank you.
I also think that if I could use a term, that the world has tried to go about this ass backwards. And that is that we try and prove the point with data, with all due respect to Mike and Scott, but it's emotion that is going to actually get people to take action. The data supports the reason to take that action. If data actually, had the impact that we would love for it to have, there would be so many things that would have changed by now. The businesses would have been servicing the older population much earlier, because of the size of it, the dollars behind it, the impact that it could have, but it hasn't. It is now beginning to catch up. And part of the reason is because a lot of the people in the business world are now us, boomers, who are, part of what is driving this whole movement behind what is happening within senior living. And, to Scott's point earlier, really, if you look at research from, let's say, AgeWave with Ken Dykewall, and Edward Jones, one of the things that they found was that 90% of the U.S. population looked at the definition of healthy aging as being able to do the things they want, when they want, and with who they want. And to do that, function is key. And that is also part of why function is now part of the definition of healthy aging with the World Health Organization, when it wasn't just a few years ago. So I think things are changing a lot, but I still come back to the fact that we have all the tools that we need. There's research showing that if we implemented these tools, we could actually reverse chronic disease by up to 40% over the course of the next couple of decades. But that's not where I was going. Where I was going is that it still comes back to helping people change their behaviors. And we have the behavior change models, but I am a firm belief that to change your behavior, you need to see yourself changing your behavior, which is where your identity comes in. If you do not see yourself changing your behavior, And I'm sure all of us have had a doctor tell us to do something that we've not done because we haven't seen ourselves changing that behavior. So, for me, this all comes back to who do we see ourselves as? And that is a very individual, way of looking at things, which is why personalized medicine and personalized health and well-being is at the forefront.
Yeah.
Maybe
Scott,
can I jump in, Mike?
Yeah, I want to let you jump in. I want to actually give a nod your direction first, if I may. I want to say, Mark, Barbara, Colin, you guys have said exactly what Scott's doing, because the uh, the intuitive nature of the functional test that a person can do in their home gives them the opportunity to tell their own story, which everyone has resonated, that I am improving and I can improve more, because the functional test not only identifies the blind spot in the first time, but it also tells you if you're improving when you re-instrument the test. Scott, go ahead.
Right. And the idea is to be able to see yourself. And what I didn't mention in my setup was, or in the intro, I teach adults over 50 around the country. My course on brain, A Beautiful Brain, goes out to over 50 colleges around the country live in the spring. What I have found in teaching classrooms of adults is they just need help connecting the dots.
Yep.
So I don't disagree with anything any of you say, but I think we have to be careful about not repeating the same message. Once people connect the dots, they see where they are, they see the stories, and then it's the transformation just happens on their own. And I think that's the difference of they are tired of being told what to do or that what you're doing is wrong. And that just doesn't resonate. We all get that. They want that personal ability and the personal empowerment. And that's the point when they take off and fly. And I think, Mark and I both use this tool of showing these tremendous athletes in their 80s and 90s doing phenomenal things so that they can see what's possible. But we still have to provide the bridge to say, here are the steps to get there. Here's the first 1 or 2 steps to get you on your way. Where you end up with it doesn't matter. It's what lights your fire and gets you excited is really all that matters.
Well, I think everyone's looking for guidance, and that is, how can you guide me? And then I will make the decision myself. One of the challenges that we have, and I just did a blog recently around science washing, and that is that there's all of the science out there that people are manipulating, the good, the bad, the ugly, but they all sound convincing. So, it wasn't very long ago that I was at a senior living community doing a presentation, and you're absolutely correct, Scott, and that is, this lady came up to me afterwards and she said, "That was wonderful." And I said, "Well, thank you." And she goes, "But I'm not doing any of it." And I said, "Okay, so then it wasn't that wonderful, was it?" She said, "Well, here's my challenge, and that is that I'm being told I can just do little bits of exercise when I want. Then I'm being told I need to do 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 120 minutes, 150 minutes, 300 minutes. I'm told that I can eat cheese, I can't eat cheese. I can eat eggs, I can't eat eggs. I can eat meat, I can't eat meat. Until the scientists get their stuff together, I'm going to do nothing."
Yeah.
And
That's a
therein
problem.
lies the problem is,
It's a problem.
Paradox of choice. Yeah.
exactly, connecting the dots in a way that people see themselves in that connection point, so they will take action, because there's a lot of people connecting the dots with the good old-fashioned snake oil, and that paralyzes people from taking action.
Yeah. Ah, my goodness. We could go on. You guys have done exactly what I wanted, and you've exceeded expectations. You've complimented, you've commented, you've clarified, you've expressed concerns, contrasting points. Let's move to round 2. And we're going to go into just a quick rapid fire. And this is whoever wants to answer and however you want to answer. I'm going to name a popular concept or intervention, life hack, or scientifically based application. And I want you to just, as your heart compels you, to weigh in with either a 2-sentence statement on how it resonates with you, or you can use one of the 3 S's. Just say support it, I'm suspicious about it, or I'm going to sideline it. Support it, suspicious about it, or I'm going to sideline it. So here we go. Implement or life hack or scientific principle number 1, whoever wants to weigh in, ice baths.
I support it.
I'll sideline it just because it doesn't rank high enough. Not that I dispute it.
I think there's more made about the benefits of it than there actually are. But I believe very much in challenging yourself, exposing yourself to friction. We need friction throughout our lives, the right kind of friction, in order to continue to grow and evolve. Social friction, physical friction. We have got to be willing to take chances and make ourselves uncomfortable. So I like it because of that.
And I like it because, I mean, I don't do it myself personally. I do splash cold water on my face. Does that count? But when Mike was on my show and we talked a little bit about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone in some very meaningful ways, and he even used kind of ice cold water as an example, I was like, okay, this sounds good. I mean, the science is a little iffy, but I also do believe that it also helps with inflammation. I mean, I think I've seen enough good science behind it to say, I think I support it.
I think it's still relatively early days, but I like both of you. It used to be seen, or exercise used to be seen as something that you wouldn't do if you were older, and now it's commonplace. So things change, and right. The question is, it seems to be changing in a positive direction for that.
Okay. All right, we're going to go to approach number 2. This one can get a little bit unwieldy. Supplements. Go ahead, group.
That's tricky. I mean, food first. My philosophy based on everything I know, everything I've heard, everything I've read. Food first. And if you're lacking, speak with your healthcare provider on how you can fill it in with supplements, which ones are the correct ones. I am a big believer in vitamin D. That is one I take every single day. Support.
Thank you.
I don't know. What's the right S here? I don't know.
That's totally fine.
Whatever.
I would use one of the
S's. About or sideline. That's you made it. You're great.
Yeah, I would use one of the S's that we don't have here for most supplements, but I won't go down that path. I would say that a lot of supplements could be sidelined. If you look at research after research shows that a lot of them are empty promises. Yep. There's some very basic supplements that can make a big difference. So I would, in general, revert back to what Barbara said, and that is see what you can get out of your food. And if you need something, have it medically prescribed because you need it, not just because, you think it's going to be cool and somebody has said it is what it is, but it isn't.
Yeah, okay. I don't agree with all the billionaire biohackers that will, take anything and everything. I think a lot of it is dependent upon what you eat. Yep. But I do believe in supplements for particular things that you may lack. And that comes down to testing. I don't yep. think you should just take a handful of supplements right. because somebody tells you to. But I do think they have value.
My dad was a great drug dealer. Not illegal drug dealer. He actually took as many drugs as you could probably put in your body that the pharmacy would provide. And then they started to wean him off of some of those. So he started to self-prescribe himself all of these weird supplements. And, it had a very negative impact on his health and well-being. So, I think it's one of those things that you buyer beware. You need to be knowledgeable. But, Scott, your thoughts?
I put them in two camps. One is the molecules your body makes naturally. There are a lot of supplements out there trying to replicate those. The body doesn't even know what to do with them if they're not made endogenously. So those are the ones I generally say you've got to have an awfully good reason to take them. But clearly there are some that are helpful that we know have a lot of data behind them. And the other is you have some gap if you're doing some testing and you're addressing a gap.
Yeah.
Right.
Excellent. Based in data there as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the third one. This one probably won't be quite as controversial. Ketogenic diet.
Sideline.
That's a great question. And I think from my perspective, it's still early days. So I would put suspicion with hope.
So I'll suggest this is one I enjoy this debate immensely. Find me one population culture anywhere in the world who has demonstrated longevity on a keto diet. I've challenged them all and they've all come back with nothing. That said, a proper keto diet, which is not what most people think of with keto diet, they tend to think of it as an alternative name for a carnivore diet. Yeah. We know a properly medically prescribed keto diet is very helpful for treating early stages of dementia. So there's a medical place for it for sure. Most people are just experimenting and have no idea what they're doing.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll defer to you guys. I think we're all different, everybody needs something different. This is a problem with the entire industry. People out there trying to make lots of money, convincing us that we should eat like they eat. The challenge, I think, is just to pay attention to your own body and eat what you need.
That's right.
And we may come back with the same answer for the next element, prolonged fasting over 24 hours. Group?
Back in when I was studying, doing research for my last book, I did meet with Dr. Walter Longo, who I think single-handedly brought the whole thing about intermittent fasting to America. And I did do his program. And, he has a special food that you eat that mimics fasting, tricks your body. And so the end result was the same. And I must say, because I was doing real research. So I did blood work first, then did 3 months of this program, 1 week each month or 5 days each month, and then blood work afterward. And it did show a remarkable improvement. And my numbers were already pretty good, but they did improve. So I do think there's some value. Now, how you do it, and your question was very specific. You did say over 24 hours. So it's not quite apples to apples what I just was saying, but I do believe that there is merit to some form of intermittent fasting. Yes, I do. However, there's a caveat. The older one gets, and this is another thing I really believe in. I don't know if it's going to be one of your questions coming up, but it's about protein and then the need for the body, especially as you get older, to have more protein early on in the day. See, I do believe in that. I'm not saying we should be overly proteining our bodies, but protein maxing, but I do believe that we need to get it in our bodies earlier in the day as we get older. And so that's where fasting and intermittent fasting could really, not jive with that concept. So
I appreciate that caveat. Thank you. Others?
Yeah, I believe in it. But like everything else, it gets so commercialized in our culture, in our society, and people trying to make money off of it, and different versions of that. I think the normal person eats all day long, eats over processed junk all day long. But I do think that if you have a good diet, it's healthy to stop eating on a regular basis.
Physiologic proof there too. Scott, how would you like to weigh in there?
There's so I'm going to assume your audience is well informed because that's who is going to be tuning into you. And where I've seen the most benefit is a metabolic reset for people who need that. It's very helpful and lots of evidence there. It's also helpful for those who kind of feel that food owns them. The ability to just turn it off for 24 hours is really powerful to take back the eating cycle, which I think a lot of people are victim of. And then I would kind of add it into, we generally fall into this category of, is it really fasting or is it just another version of caloric restriction? And we know that ultimately is one of the biggest levers we have for health and longevity.
Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, I want to bring us around to a final question and give each of you ample time to address this as you may. And I want us to think just like a book that we've reread or a book that we've recommend other people must read. What are some lifestyle behaviors, choices, things that you are personally doing, meaning you're rereading that, you are consuming that activity as a habit, or that you are recommending other people do? And I want to be very considerate of what Marc said. There's nothing that is good for everyone. And talking to us about and everyone's approach this, for each person, some things can be healthy or not. But what are those things that appear to have a through line that you'd like to recommend most everyone partake in for their efforts to age most healthily? Anyone that would like to start, however you'd like to tackle that.
I think we need to find things that bring us joy, and then we want to do it irrespective of if it's raining or not. If if we feel well or not well. Sometimes you don't want to do it when you're not feeling well. That's why, for me, I think we need to give ourselves permission to live adventurously. And, whatever that adventure is. When my wife and I got married, on the inside of our wedding rings, we had engraved, "Let the adventure begin." And that's really what I think life is about. Waking up every morning is the greatest risk factor. Not getting the most out of life, I think, is the greatest tragedy. Yeah. So I think giving yourself permission to live life the way you would like it to is where it all starts, because we certainly put a lot of barriers up in front of us. We're afraid, in many organizations that work with older adults, they bubble wrap their older adults because they're afraid that they'll break them. I mean, literally, I've had people tell me that, or that they will damage them if they challenge them to exercise and push themselves harder. So I think, being open to live adventurously, and then think about all the things that you need to have in place to achieve that, such as your physical health, such as, the resources to do what you want to do. If you look at that and you look at that across your life course, I think that that gives you a certain level of freedom, that you are now able to live life in your terms and not everybody else's terms. And that is freeing.
Love it. Thank you, Colin.
Well, I'll chime in. I'll chime in
ahead.
and talk about a little bit more of the physical, since you talked about the emotional and the joy, which is so important. And also, as Marc said, mindset, joy, so important, and start there. But then some things I'm doing personally, and again, it's all about reassessing and tweaking, is, of course, I'm taking my physical health very, very seriously, so that I don't become a little frail old lady when I'm in my 70s and 80s and beyond. And so, of course, moving my body throughout the day, not just 1 hour of a walk, but throughout the day. Like after we're done here, I'm going to go down and do a couple of push-ups and squats, in the outfit I'm wearing. It's okay. And that's important. But some serious intentional walks every single day. Strength training is super important. And that I am doing 2 to 3 times a week. And I encourage everyone to do the same if you want to fight frailty. And something else that I've incorporated, which goes back to the VO2 max. The more I read about VO2 max, I know it's not just some term that's being bandied about by the longevity bros. it is important. We know it's important, and it is a very important measure of our overall health and wellness and an indicator of how we are doing. And so there are ways. I just had a wonderful interview for AERP, actually, with one of the country's leading experts, Dr. Benjamin Levine, leading experts on VO2 max. And he did tell me ways that we can improve it. One of them is, and this is a very specific thing that I'm doing, I want to share, it's been around forever, is the Norwegian 4x4. I did do that back when I was training for marathons. A little arthritis in the knee right now, so kind of sidelined on that little hobby. But I have found other ways to do it. You can do it with rowing. You can do it even with walking. You can do it with swimming. Certainly you can do with running, but I've chosen to do on an air bike in a gym. At 4x4, you go as fast as you can for 4 minutes, and then for 3 minutes, you slow down. You do that for a round of 4 times. It has worked wonders in improving my VO2 max, which you can measure on with an Apple Watch, and also how you feel. That's another indicator. So these are very important things. Of course, it's kind of following the pillars of overall health and wellness. I do make sleep a priority. That's important. I eat well. Sometimes I do take a fast break. These are all very, very important elements of overall health and wellness. So now I am talking specifically about the body, and I also manage stress as best I can as well. Community, we've touched on this a lot throughout this conversation today. Community, connection, we all know it's one of the most important aspects of healthy aging.
Mhm. Wow, that's a beautiful and comprehensive answer. And to be in your friend network and to hear those things and to see you model those are very important. Scott, Mark, your thoughts.
I'll jump in if it's okay. Talking to one another, we're just preaching to the choir. I think all of us on this wonderful gamified podcast, kind of get the message. What I find is it's just so easy to unintentionally discourage older adults. They want to eliminate themselves from the conversation right away when you talk about these aspirational things, these things that are possible. What I have learned, and I think Growing Boulder has done more video stories, if you will, on active centenarians than just about any media group in the world. What I have learned from them is that quality of life really comes down to the ability to savor, the ability to live in the moment, the ability to live with gratitude. And so I must always offer a disclaimer when I show any of these, kind of videos or tell the stories that Scott and I tell all the time. A disclaimer, this is not about the fact that this woman set a world record at 105 or this guy's doing this at 95. It's not about that at all. It's just about leaning into life. It's about what Colin talked about. It's about the dignity of risk. If not now, when? It's about prehabilitating. This is the message that people will get. You can tell them to exercise all day long, but when you tell them that it is 100% certain that they're going to experience a series of physical challenges and issues as they age, and it is also 100% certain that their ability to recover, the speed of their recovery, the extent of their recovery is going to be determined by their overall health and well-being at the time. They get motivated to get out there and get going. But then there are just those people that don't want to hear it. They do not want to be told that more is possible. They've lived their life. It was stressful for them. And now it's like the lion in the zoo, the old lion that is comfortable in the cage that confines him. And so it's hard to get through to those people. And the only way to get through to those people, and the most valuable thing we can give them, is the understanding that no matter what their challenges are, they still have the ability to extract moments of joy out of every single freaking day if they will just take a deep breath and pay attention to what's happening around them. They can enjoy life's ceaseless little miracles, as more than one centenarian has shared with us.
If I could quickly add to that, Mark, and I think you're absolutely correct. I think we need to go beyond hype to hope. Hope for better tomorrow. All this hype is getting in the way of that.
Yeah. Wow, great addition. Mark, thank you for your comments. Colin, thank you for seeing that in there. And Scott, on to you.
Well, Mark, you're just the best setup guy I think I've ever run across.
Happy to do it.
In my first book, Wealth Span, there's a chapter that was never in the outline, never intended to write, but I found myself, as writers do, got going on this idea of why? Why bother? Why pursue health span? Why pursue longevity? To answer that question, what's common? And I believe what's common is moments. Right? It's not years. We're trying to rack up moments to get from the moments I've had. I want more of those moments. I know there's going to be times in between. I may not like the idea if I'm going to have to get through some tough stuff to get there, but that's what's waiting on the other side of the tough things. And so that for me that's the why. And those moments can be whatever they are to every individual. They own what they are. What excites them is their own thing. I don't have anything to add to what I think their moment should be. And I think the common theme that I see amongst people who age well is curiosity. They're lifelong learners, not just academically. They are learning about life all the time. And by virtue of being curious, they're staying ahead of the curve on what's happening, and they're better able to distill all of the noise that's out there around social media and all the headlines around. These are the things that I believe really matter, because belief is important as well. But they've got their filters are dialed in tighter, and they're not as gullible. They may find something entertaining, but to Colin's point earlier, but that doesn't mean they're going to go do it. And so those are really, I think, the two things that really kind of stand out as I've been studying this for several years.
And Scott, that's the reason why I think, the future for senior living really is the Center for Discovery. And that is, what are you curious about? And how can I discover that? How can you help me discover that, whether it's my physical capabilities or whether it is just simply learning about how to do pottery?
Yeah, I was on a call yesterday with some European architects designing for senior living, and it was really the organizer was almost in tears when we were done, with excitement around all the possibilities when you start to look at senior living through a different lens, and don't engineer it, just create the possibilities and the designs that don't cost any more money, right? It's like, what problem are you trying to solve? That's the old engineer in me. Like, we're not working on the right problem a lot of times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that the group has some time constraints. What I love about the 75 minutes that we've spent is that I've done very little talking. I love hearing and listening and benefiting from all of you. And I hope that the individuals that are consuming this podcast are also benefiting from all the listening, all the opportunities, and all the hope. To my friends here in this Squadcast, thank you so much for your time and contributions, your impassioned efforts for the Aging Better, for the IcaaCc, for Function, for Growing Bolder. We're going to produce this podcast and put it out on March 3rd, and we'll have certainly some excerpts out in between. And what's most importantly is that I look forward to moments of time with all of you in person beyond this recording. So thank you so much for your trust and willingness to join me here.
Thank you, Mike, so much for having us.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike, and thanks to all of you. It's great to spend time with you.
Amen.
Amen.